Hi everyone, this is Serverless Camp Week 3, Step 4 by Bit Project. My name is Emily, and in this video, we'll be going over how to create a timer trigger and what its use cases are, and overall how to work with one. Alright, so first of all, why are we even using a timer trigger? Well, in our case, we're going to be going through the steps to delete all the files in blob storage every 5 minutes. So it's running on a timer. It's going to execute the code every 5 minutes on a schedule. This assists us in automated cleanups for a storage container and removing outdated files. So, after 5 minutes, our users for this app will no longer need the files. So to save space, save money, we have an automated system that runs every 5 minutes. And that's one use case for a timer trigger. Another use case could be sending a text every morning. That would also, anything that runs on a schedule where you need code to run, that's when you would use a timer trigger. All right. So the first thing we want to do is actually create a timer trigger. So if you want to go to VS Code and then go to your Azure Functions plugin and click on this new function, click on timer trigger, and I'm going to name it bunny image timer. And this is a cron expression. These set of numbers and characters basically just means run every 5 minutes. Depending on what you need, you'll write a different cron expression, and those can be easily generated on Google. So now that I have the timer function, I'm going to go ahead and actually delete all of the inside because we are going to be coding something different other than the template. All right, let's go back here. So the algorithm we're going to be using, or in other words, how we're going to be coding this, is we're going to have a loop, and the loop is going to get contact with the blob, actual blob service, the blob container, and we're going to loop through all of the blobs in the container and delete all of them using a loop. So the first thing we're actually going to do is to declare all of our global variables and what we're actually going to be using. So obviously we first need the Azure SDK, which can be installed using a npm package. And then we're gonna also need the connection string and account name. So your account name is going to be whatever it is on Azure. I named it Emily's storage account. Your connection string is actually going to be whatever environment variable you've already put in your function app, so be sure to use the function app that you created last time. Now that we have our variables that we're going to need, let's go ahead and start writing the loop. So first we're going to need to fetch the container, and basically what we mean by fetch the container, you've done this before, is we're just creating contact with it, so that we can communicate back and forth and get the information we need, and also make any needed changes. So I'm going to copy this block of code. I'm going to put that in here. Now the first line of code is getting the client, and it's establishing a connection using the connection string. And then we have a variable called delete container, which is the container containing the images we want to delete. And then finally, we're creating a blob container client, which is establishing connection with the specific container. All right. Now we're going to start the loop. In the loop, we're going to use a function called list blobs flat, and what this does is it retrieves a reference to each blob. It's a list of them, you can think of that. And then in this for loop, we're looping through it using this variable blob. So every time we're accessing a different blob on the list. I'm going to copy that and go ahead and put that in my module.exports function. Now, right here, we're supposed to put a line of code that's going to access the blob's name and use delete blob to delete the blob. And we've provided the syntax right here. If you want to learn more about the syntax, you can click right here. I'm just going to copy the code over and replace it. All right, just added that. And if you look here, what it's doing is it's taking the blob name, and right here, we're actually going to need to replace that. So blob.name, it's taking the blob's, it's accessing the blob's name and putting it as a parameter into delete blob. And then it's just going to go ahead and use the container client to delete it. And I think that's about it. The only thing, other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little context.log statement at the end just to say, hey, deleted all files from the container, just to let us know that the for loop was successfully completed and everything was deleted. Okay, I'd say let's go give this a test run. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. And while this is deploying, we actually have something to do. We want to upload some images to Postman. So if you get your Azure function, bunny image upload function that we coded in the previous steps, you're going to want to add something to the body. I added a random picture. In your headers, specify a code name, which is going to be the file name, and click send. Right now what we're doing is we're just adding some files into our blob storage so then we can test the timer trigger to see if it actually deletes everything. I'm going to add 2 of those, and it's still deploying. I'm going to go back to my images container, and then I'm going to click refresh. You'll see here that these are the 2 images that I just added using Postman. Let's see how the deployment is going. All right, it's done. So I'm going to go to my function app, click refresh. Now my function was disabled because I've already done it before, but yours should be enabled. If it isn't, just enable it. Okay, so I'm going to click on it and click on code plus test because this is where we're going to test our code. All right, so now that it's loaded, you can go ahead and click test/run, and you're just going to click run here to run our code. Awesome, it says 202 accepted, and we can go here to double check our images, and everything's gone. That worked exactly how it was supposed to, so that's it for this step. If you wanted to see how everything was logged out in the console using the for loop, because we did add a context.log statement in here, you can go ahead and wait for the console to log and then click run to see how everything plays out. But that's about it for this step. You're completed, and you can go ahead and commit your code to the repository. And then once you're done with that, make sure to comment an expression, a cron expression, that tells a timer trigger to run every day at 6:23 a.m. I'm not going to go over this in the video because this is a very easy thing to Google, and it's not something conceptually code related, but feel free to do that. If you need help, feel free to reach out. But that's about it. I'll see you in the next video for our last step of the bunny image project.